This tutorial explains dimensional analysis, or how to convert from one unit to another. Remember, there are three elements of dimensional analysis: a starting quantity, a desired quantity, and a conversion factor. For example, let's say we want to convert 135 miles to kilometers. In this case, the 135 miles is the starting quantity, and the kilometers that we convert to will be the desired quantity. To get the conversion factor, we have to look at the equivalent value between miles and kilometers. So I will either give you that equivalent value, or you can look in your math skills on page 4. And if you look there, it gives you the equivalent value for miles to kilometers or kilometers to miles. Let's use 1 kilometer equals 0.62 miles. Okay, so that's our equivalent value. We turn that into a conversion factor, and there are two. Remember, there are two conversion factors for each equivalent value. So one conversion factor would be 1 kilometer over 0.62 miles, or the other conversion factor will be 0.62 miles over 1 kilometer. Now remember that a conversion factor is equal to 1. So all you're doing when you multiply by a conversion factor is you're multiplying by 1. So you're not changing the measurement value, you're just changing the unit that you're reporting the measurement in. Okay, let's set up the conversion problem. Remember, if you get stuck, you can always look at page 3 of your math skills. All right, let's begin. Start by writing the unit that you are converting from, 135 miles, and put that value over 1. Notice that I put units with my 135. Do not leave naked numbers. The only number that should be without units in your problem is the 1 that you've put underneath the 135 miles. We're going to multiply by our conversion factor that we get from our equivalency. You can go back and look at page 1. What are we converting to? That's the unit that we put in the numerator, kilometers. What are we converting from? Miles. You should be able to cancel algebraically the miles units. So the 135 miles, the miles is in the numerator, and the miles for the conversion factor should be in the denominator. Okay, now look at your equivalent value. Let's use 1 kilometer equals 0.62 miles. So as you say the equivalent value, fill in the numbers. 1 kilometer equals 0.62 miles. Everything's set up correctly. Miles will cancel. Now you just do the math. Remember, when you multiply fractions, you multiply numerators and you multiply denominators. You multiply across. So 135 times 1 equals 135. 1 times 0.62 equals 0.62. What unit do we have? Kilometers. In your calculator, punch in 135 divided by 0.62, and the number that you'll get, 217.741935, round to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. So your converted value is 217 0.74 kilometers. This is the same distance as 135 miles. Okay, let's try another one, but this time let's convert from one metric unit to another metric unit. So let's convert 245 grams to milligrams. All right, how will you start? What's the first thing that you need to do? Did you start with 245 grams over 1? What's next? Remember, look at page 3 if you get stuck. What's your conversion factor? Look at your equivalent values on page 4 of your math skills. Remember, we're converting 2 milligrams. That's the unit that goes in the numerator of the conversion factor. And we're converting from grams, the unit that goes in the denominator. If you look on page 4, you'll find an equivalency between milligrams and grams. 1,000 milligrams equals 1 gram. 1,000 milligrams equals 1 gram. Remember what you do? Multiply across. So 245 times 1,000 becomes 245,000. Remember, grams cancels. 1 times 1, of course, is 1. So our converted value is 245,000 milligrams. Sometimes converting from one unit to another requires multiplying by more than one conversion factor. For example, if we convert 85,000 milligrams to kilograms, if you look on page 4 of your math skills, you will not find an equivalent value between milligrams to kilograms. And if you don't know that equivalent value, the rule is always convert to the base. So the base for mass, milligrams to kilograms, is grams. So the first thing you need to do is convert to grams. Okay, so we start with 85,000 milligrams over 1 times our first conversion factor. Remember, we're going to go to our base, so we're converting 2 grams. Put grams in the numerator. We're converting from milligrams in the denominator. Now there is an equivalent value for grams to milligrams or milligrams to grams. So if you look on page 4, it says 1,000 milligrams equals 1 gram. So when we use this conversion factor, algebraically, we cancel milligrams. So what unit will we be in when we do the math? We'll be in grams. But we want to be in kilograms. So now we're going to multiply by a second conversion factor. Kilograms, that's what we're converting to, from, what are we in? Grams. Is there an equivalent value on page 4 for grams to kilograms? Yes. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. What cancels with this conversion factor? Grams here and grams here. Now all you have to do is the math. 85,000 times 1 equals 85,000. And our units were in kilograms. Divided by Multiply across in the denominator. 1 times 1,000 times 1,000. 10 to the 6th, or 1,000,000. So do the math, and you end up with 0.085 kilograms. Remember, always show your units with all numbers, your conversion factor units, and the units that you're beginning with. That way you can keep track of what cancels. Also remember, page 3 of your math skills gives you step-by-step instructions on what to do.